Hello everyone and welcome to my August and September favorites. I obviously wasn't here to do my monthly favorites in August, so I just decided to wait until the end of September and combine the 2 months. And I will try to make this quick because I have so much to talk about, obviously, because it's 2 months combined. So I will try to make like little short reviews about everything, and like always I will be talking about like life favorites and item favorites, and then I will talk about movies and TV shows, and then music, and then books at the end. I'll try to leave the timestamps down below if you want to skip any part, and let's get into it. So my first favorite is actually a clothing favorite that I am wearing right now, and it's this t-shirt that says the book was better. I got this t-shirt from bookishtreat.com. They sent me this one and I have been living in this t-shirt for the past like month and a half since I got it. It is so comfy, and they have other stuff on their website apart from t-shirts. They also have hoodies and mugs, and it's all bookish somehow, and I loved all their items, but this one was my favorite because obviously the book is always better than the movie. We all know that, and I just love the fit of this t-shirt, and it's so comfortable, and I love how big it is. I got a size medium, I think, because I like oversized tees, and yeah, I love it. I will leave their website down below. You can check out their items, and also I have a 10% discount code if you want to buy anything in their web shop. You can use the discount code bookstagram10 at checkout, and you will have 10% off of everything that you buy, and it's great. And I will have all the information down below. So that was my first favorite of the month of August and September. I got this in the middle of August, I think, and I just love it. The second kind of life favorite that I have to share is the Lisbon Book Fair, which happened in late August, early September, and obviously I went there. I go there every year and I love it. It's probably one of my favorite times of the year, and I went there like 4 different days, and it was so much fun. I bought so many books and I met lovely people, and I just had the best time there. And last year I actually did a video for my channel, kind of like a vlog style video at the Lisbon Book Fair, and I thought of doing the same thing this year, but then I just wasn't in the right headspace and I wasn't really comfortable with filming still, so I decided not to film a video, which I kind of regret, but I kind of also don't, because I was respecting my boundaries. But yeah, the Lisbon Book Fair is always amazing. I love going there and being there, and I really miss it. And the last life favorite that I have to share is my rollerblading experience. So I bought a pair of inline skates at the beginning of August, I feel like. I don't really know what time is anymore, but yeah, I bought inline skates because why not? Honestly, my boyfriend is spending a lot of time at the skate park usually, and usually I just sit there and watch him, and one day I was just like, let me get some skates. I will not get like a proper skate. I don't think that's fit for me. I'm too uncoordinated for that, so I bought inline skates. I will insert a picture here, and I've just been having so much fun learning how to skate, and just like now I'm at the point where I start trying to do some like tricks and stuff and like jumping, and it's just so much fun, and I get so much exercise done as well because it really demands from you and your body, and it's just a nice way to spend time with my boyfriend while he's at the skate park. I'm also there, not in a skate, but in inline skates, and it's just the best. And now moving on to my only music favorite, which is the new Casey Musgraves album that came out at the beginning of September, Star-Crossed. First of all, I love the cover, and I love the singles, and I just really like the album. I still haven't, like, it's only been a couple of weeks since it came out, so I'm still kind of like diving into it, but it's great. And I'm really trying not to compare Star-Crossed with Golden Hour because they're definitely like different sides of Casey. Golden Hour is definitely about happiness and butterflies and rainbows and everything, and Star-Crossed is about a breakup and her divorce, and it's definitely sadder and more melancholic and stuff, so it's definitely different. Like, it's different things, so I try not to compare them, but at the same time I still like Golden Hour more than Star-Crossed, I feel like. I don't know, it just really made me feel, you know? It's just, Golden Hour just made me feel. But nevertheless, it's a great album full with great tracks. The visuals for the album, chef's kiss, like, oh my god, it's amazing. And I'm super excited because I'm seeing her in concert next year and I'm just super pumped. So yeah, that was my only music favorite, unfortunately. And now moving on to TV shows and movies. Usually I only talk about movies, but this time I have the TV show to talk about. So I am late to the party, but I started watching Sex Education in August, I think, and I am obsessed with that show. I'm just obsessed with the cast and the representation, diversity, everything. It's all perfect. Honestly, I didn't know I would like this show this much, and that's why I didn't start it until August, because I don't know, every time I saw something about sex education, I just thought it was going to be like super cliche and just unrealistic, but it's completely the opposite. It's such a realistic show. It has so much diversity, which I always appreciate, and it talks about such important things. And oh my god, I saw the first and second season like in a binge watch, and then the third season came out a few weeks ago and I also binge watched it because I couldn't control myself, and it's just so great. I'm obsessed, like literally obsessed. Now I have 3 movie favorites. The first one is Another Round. I think the original title is Druk. Not sure if I'm pronouncing this right. This is a Danish movie that came out last year, and it follows a group of teachers that try to kind of implement alcohol in their teaching and try to see if the effects of alcohol have some kind of like psychological positive impact on the way they teach. As I was watching the movie, at first it kind of portrayed alcohol in a good way and kind of like beneficial to people, and I was like, is this promoting alcohol abuse? But as the movie progresses, obviously it has such an impactful storyline, and just like it really packs a punch at the end, and I just loved it. Now the next movie I saw right after I saw Another Round, and it's What We Do in the Shadows, and this is a movie from I think 2014, and it's by Taika Waititi, and he's also the main character, and this is a comedy about vampires, and it's just so funny. First of all, I'm not really the person to watch comedy movies and actually laugh out loud, and also vampires are not really my thing, but something about this movie just made it work, and I just laughed the whole movie. It was so funny, it was so over the top and ridiculous, and that's what makes it so funny, and I just highly recommend it. And also I've heard that there's a TV show, like kind of like a spin-off TV show from the movie, I think, and now I'm really curious to watch that TV show because I think it's also about vampires living together as roommates like the movie is, and it's just such a funny concept and I need to check it out. And the last movie favorite that I have is Miss Americana. I have been on a Taylor Swift phase for the past few months, but it's gotten to the point where I'm just like, everything I listen to is folklore. And yeah, I just decided to finally watch Miss Americana on Netflix, and it was such a great documentary. I love documentaries about famous people for some reason. Just think it's so fascinating to see like into their lives. And I know that Netflix also has other documentaries about celebrities like Lady Gaga and Beyonce, and now I just feel like watching all of them because Miss Americana was so good. I wish it was longer. If you would have told me 2 years ago that I would be obsessed with Taylor Swift in 2021, I would probably laugh in your face, but this is my reality now and I'm just accepting it. And now finally moving on to books. I think I have 10 books to talk about. In August I read 14 books in total. Now in September I'm having a rough month. I think I'm close to like 9 or 10 books, which isn't bad obviously, but obviously compared to other months that I've had, it's kind of bad, but it's okay. And also I've just been noticing that a lot of my, like, the best books that I've read in the past 2 months have been audiobooks, which, like, what is happening with my physical reads? I don't know. Speaking of audiobooks, the first book that I want to talk about is Erotic Stories for Punjabi Widows by Bali Kaur Jaswal. And this one is one that I need physically because I just adored this book. And the story follows Nikki, who is the daughter of Indian immigrants, and she lives in London, and she's a law school dropout. And one day, to help her family out with money, she decides to take a teaching job at a community center to teach creative writing. And when she gets there for the teaching job, she realizes that there was kind of a miscommunication, and that she's not there to teach creative writing, but she's there to teach a bunch of Punjabi widows how to write because they don't know how to write in English. And she decides to take that challenge, but then one day she gets to class and she finds that all of the Punjabi widows have found one of, like, the erotic books that Nikki reads, and they are super fascinated by it. And so Nikki decides to ride that wave and kind of turn that writing class into an erotic story kind of storytelling class, and kind of to let their creativity fly. There is a conservative community in the Punjabi community that is trying to find out what Nikki is teaching, because rumors are spreading and people are not talking highly of her classes, and it's just kind of like this clash of ideals, and it's just a really fun story overall. But also I loved the political themes in the story as well. So I give this one 4 out of 5 stars, and I highly recommend the audiobook. Now the next book that I want to talk about is Eating Animals by Jonathan Safran Foer. I've had this one on my TBR for a really long time, and I finally got to it. This is obviously a book about the meat and agriculture sector of the world, especially in the United States, and how meat is produced, and also the impacts of consumption of meat. And I'm a vegetarian, so obviously I'm biased here, but I just think this book was fascinating, and it just made me want to not eat meat again. Like, it was already in my intentions, but this book obviously made me more set on my beliefs, because the meat industry is scary and I just don't want that in my body, thank you. And even though this is a non-fiction book about something that is so dense, I promise that the book is not dense at all, and it reads super quickly. And also because this is part memoir, because Jonathan Safran Foer started all of this research because of his own life and his own family, so it's really interesting, I swear. And it just gives you kind of, it wasn't new for me, but it just gave me a lot more insight and confidence, I guess, on my decision of not eating meat. I haven't eaten meat in the past 3 years, and this just proves my point. Now the next one that was a favorite of August, I think, was The Vanishing Half by Brit Bennett. I can attest that this book is very, very good, and I understand all of the hype now, and I want to read Brit Bennett's other book, The Mothers. I'm so excited to read that book. And this book follows a pair of twins, Stella and Desiree, and they grew up in a southern small black community, and then at the age of 16 they both run away from their local community, and they basically stop communicating with each other. And then years later their lives are completely different, because one of them is living in a black community and is married to a black man, and the other one is living as a white woman when she is not one. And it's basically about their lives and their experiences, and also about their daughters crossing paths a number of years later, and what that means for the twin sisters. And it's such a great novel. I love Brit Bennett's writing. I've read 2 books with kind of like the same concept as this book. I've read Passing, obviously, by Nella Larson, and I've also read Caucasia by Denzi Sena, and I've loved both of those books, but I still love this book, even though like the theme of those 3 books are the same. I just love the books individually still. And yeah, I just loved this book. I have nothing else to add. I really want to read The Mothers next, and yeah, 5 stars. Yeah. Next book that I want to talk about is Saga Volume 4 by Brian K. Vaughan, and I am slowly making my way through the series, but at the same time I finally have all of the other volumes left in the series, so I think I will finally binge read them at some point this year. And yeah, I just wanted to talk about the series because I feel like I haven't since I started reading them. And I think my favorite one so far is actually volume 3, which I think is a very unpopular opinion, but I just love that volume. But at the same time, I think the story keeps getting better as the volumes progress, and I just love the characters, I love where the story is going. And like I said, I finally have all the other volumes, so I now we'll get to them a lot faster than I have until this point, because I've been buying like one every year, and I just, like, when I pick up the next volume, I never really remember anything that happened previously, so now I just need to binge read them. Also, comment down below if you've read all of the 9 volumes, because I've heard that the last volume ends in a cliffhanger because the story is in a hiatus, and I feel like I'm not gonna read the 9th volume. I'm just gonna keep it, and when Brian K. Vaughan decides to publish more of the story, I will continue in the 9th volume. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts if I should read until the 8th or the 9th volume. So yeah, but I'm really loving this series, and I just love this world and the way that it's so modern yet it's sci-fi, because I feel like all sci-fi stories are never really modern. I don't know, it just always has that like outer world feel, and this feels very grounded for a sci-fi book. I don't know what I'm saying, but I just love this world. That's what I'm trying to say. Now moving on to books that I've read this month in September. The first one that I want to talk about, I also listened to as an audiobook, and I also really want a copy for myself because I just adored this book. This is probably one of my favorite like books that I've read this year, probably like a top 10, but still I just adored it, and it was Luster by Raven Leilani. I picked this one up because it was a short audiobook. I had seen the cover around and I had like no idea about the story, so I just started listening to it, and it's so fascinating. And this book follows Edie, and she is a 20-something-year-old, I think she's 23 like me, living in New York, and she is also an artist, but at the same time she's been working a lot of like low pay income jobs, and she is overall very lost about her life and just trying to pick herself up. And then she meets Eric, and he's an older man and he has a family, and his wife agrees to have an open marriage where Edie and Eric can meet, and it's all fine and dandy. And basically Edie just starts at some point living with that family, and then she meets their adoptive daughter, who is called Akila, and Akila is also black like Edie, and so they form this kind of special bond, especially because Akila doesn't really have a lot of black people in her life because her parents are obviously white. I just loved how raw and unfiltered this book was about being in your 20s and not having anything figured out and not really knowing what you're doing with your life. And I just loved this weird relationship between this young girl and this married couple and their daughter, and all the racial implications in that relationship and the sexual implications as well. And it was just such a fascinating book. I also love the audiobook narrator, and I just think this is the perfect book about being in your 20s. I don't know, I just never really read a lot of books about being lost in your early 20s where I'm at right now, and I just really connected with this book, not because of where Edie was and what she was doing, and like I have nothing of that to compare to in my life, but just how impulsive she was, and just how she had nothing figured out and she was just trying stuff out and see what's really stuck in her life, and even in relationships obviously, because that's the main focus of the book. And I just adored this one. This was easily a 5-star, and I really want this book in my collection. The next book I also listened to as an audiobook, and it was Inconvenient Daughter by Lauren J. Sharkey. And this is a book about transracial adoption because it's about a girl who is adopted from Korea by two white parents in the US, and it's about her growing up and kind of figuring herself out and trying to connect with her parents even though they're not her parents, you know? And I just have never read a lot of books about adoption. I feel like the only contact that I had with adoption was with Luster and also with Little Fires Everywhere, and I just loved how this wasn't about a secondary character being adopted, and it was about the main character who was the person that was adopted. It's obviously a very hard book to read and it has a bunch of trigger warnings just like Luster. I will leave all of the trigger warnings down below for all of these books, but it was a very hard read but at the same time super insightful and I learned a lot. And I gave this one 4 stars just because the ending, I feel like it was kind of, I don't know, it kind of dragged at the end, and I really liked the first half of the book a lot more than the second half when the main character was older, Rowan, and yeah, it was just, the ending didn't really do it for me, but other than that, I loved the book and I highly recommend it because I haven't seen a lot of people talk about it, so yeah. And now the last book that I want to talk about is actually the one that I'm reading right now, but I am close to the end and I just know this is going to become an instant favorite and one that I recommend to so many people in my life, and it's Me and White Supremacy by Layla F. Saad. And this book is amazing. Like, I know that a lot of people have already talked about this book on their channel, but I just feel like this is the book that every white person should read. Like, literally go buy it. And this book is a combination of a 1-month step-by-step reflection progress about white supremacy, white privilege, and just racism in general. And it's such an important book and on so many levels. One chapter is 1 day, so like you do this every day for a month, and at the end they have reflective journaling prompts that you have to answer and to write and to really kind of dismantle all of the white supremacy that we've been taught all our lives, and sometimes we like unconsciously have been taught all of this. And it's just such an interesting, important, insightful, everything book. This is probably going to become one of the books that I go back to more because it's just not something that you read this book and you're done for life, you know? This is a constant process and progress, and you really have to be open to change and be open to listen and to really examine and discuss with yourself all that is discussed here. And it's just such an important book. I will not talk about it further. I just want you to go pick it up. Honestly, that's all I want you to do. I am still reading it, obviously. I still have the bookmark here, but I just know that this is going to be an instant 5 stars, an instant favorite, and I will go back to this book a million times in my life, probably. I'm actually really sad and kind of ashamed that I've only picked this one up now. I've picked up other anti-racist books, but I feel like I should have started with this one. But nevertheless, I am loving it now, and I'm so glad that I finally picked it up. And that concludes my favorites from August and September. I honestly had a million other books to talk about, but I had to shorten the list because I keep rambling and I'm sweaty and I want to go. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe down below if you haven't, and I will see you on my next one. Bye!